how, if you were talking to them, how would you tell them that the debt is going
Well,
up?
in fact,
why should they be concerned about it?
Well, I did talk to him. A couple of my grandkids are up between 10 and 16, and they understand what's going on, but I have to put it in perspective for them. When you talk about a $12.3 trillion debt, I can remember when it was $200 billion, and I was just outraged. In fact, I said, if you stack up $100 bills, it'll be the height of the Empire State Building or something like that. Then we have a president who's come in, and it's totally, it's unlike anything in the history of our country. He's so persuasive, he can say things that aren't true with great conviction. Very similar to the way Bill Clinton used to be able to do it, but this guy is better. And so he says he inherited this awful deficit. And yet, if you take all of the 8 years of Bush and add them up together, it comes to $1.5 trillion. His is at $1.5 trillion for the first year. So he's doing more deficit in the first year than George Bush did in 8 years before now.
How does this affect people? You said you have grandkids, 16. How does it affect 16-year-olds? How does it affect 25-year-olds? Why should they be concerned about it right now?
Well, first of all, they're going to be the ones who have to pay for it. And this is, all we're doing is borrowing money. Now, it's not going to affect me. I'll be dead and gone before the problem hits, but it's going to affect my kids, my grandkids, and people between 20 and 30 years old are going to have to actually pay for what we are doing, the excesses that we have today. Now, you're probably talking to the right person. I've been ranked as the #1 most conservative member of the United States Senate.
So where do we go from here? Like you said, we have a almost $6 trillion deficit this year, $1.3 trillion projected next year. What are the steps that you're planning on taking, or what steps do you think the Senate should take to address either the short-term deficit, the medium term, or the long term?
Well, what we're going to try to do is defeat as much of this stuff as possible. And, I criticize some of the Republicans. Several of the conservative Republicans voted for the $700 billion bailout. And that just, I couldn't believe that would happen. And remember, that was Hank Paulson in conjunction with this administration too, so that happened actually a month before this administration came in. Then we had the $787 billion stimulus bill. Now they're talking about another stimulus bill. And so those things, when you think about $700 billion, and yet we have a lot of supposedly conservative members of Congress and the House and the Senate who will talk about one of the phoniest issues around is earmarks. Earmarks don't say, you can kill every earmark out there. You don't save one nickel. All that does is give it to the executive branch. And that's a phony issue. So one of the jobs that we have is to try to get through and tell the truth and then vote down, make sure the public understands what's going on, and stop this the spending that's going on.
The stimulus package and the TARP, those were large expenditures. At the budget hearing that was this morning about the deficit, experts testified that entitlement programs, and that's something a lot of economists and fiscal conservatives are concerned about, is the unfunded liabilities. Is that something that you support?
Well, it is, but that's something that is getting worse with this administration. They're putting out everything else under entitlements. We had a controllable number of entitlements prior to this administration. They want to, everyone's entitled to everything now, health care and everything else. So my concern is if we just go back to where we were before, and with enough public pressure to do that, then we'd be all right. Something I'm trying to do right now, and you're hearing it here first, is to take the discretionary spending, which would be about $1.4 trillion. That discretionary spending, the president said in his State of the Union message, we're going to freeze that. Well, wait a minute. He's freezing it after he's increased it by 20%. So what we want to do is take it back to where it was before he became president and freeze it there. Now, hopefully that will be successful, but again, it's going to take a lot of awareness out there.